You think the government will save you. You think there's a magical retirement plan waiting for you at the end of the line. You think that social programs, subsidies, and electoral promises will put food on your table when you are 70 and can no longer work. You're living a pathetic fantasy. And the proof of this isn't in conspiracy theories or political ideologies. It's in the cold, brutal mathematics of reality. Look around you. Look at those retirees eating one meal a day. Those who worked for 40 years believing the system would take care of them. They also placed faith in promises from bureaucrats, and now they pay the price for naivety with stolen dignity and electricity bills they can't pay. The government is not your father, not your mother. He is not your savior. It's an entity that operates on other people's money, run by individuals who won't lose sleep if you die poor. Understand this at once. No one, absolutely no one, cares more about your money than you should. And if you're delegating your financial security to politicians who change every 4 years, you're not a victim of the system. You're complicit in your own destruction. Let me tell you something I've learned from watching thousands of people over decades. Most people don't fail financially because they lack money. They fail due to lack of personal responsibility. They fail because it is psychologically more comfortable to believe that someone will come to save them than to face the naked truth that you are the only one responsible for your future. There is a devastating psychological phenomenon called learned helplessness. Do you know? This is when an animal, or a person, learns that their actions don't make a difference, so they stop trying. Put a rat in a cage where it is shocked randomly, with no control over when it stops or starts, and eventually it just gives up. Even when you open the cage door, he stays there, accepting suffering as inevitable. You are that mouse, and the cage is the narrative that you need the government to survive. Every time you complain about taxes but do nothing to organize your finances, you're accepting the shocks. Every time you vote for promises of social protection instead of building your own protection, you are choosing the cage. Every time you spend your entire month's paycheck and hope that something will work out, you're training your brain for helplessness. And do you know what the most perverse part is? The system counts on this. Politicians don't want financially independent citizens. They want dependents, because dependents vote for whoever promises the most crumbs. Dependents accept more control. Dependents don't ask hard questions about where their tax money goes. Do you want to know why schools don't teach financial education? Why didn't anyone teach you about compound interest, investing, or how the banking system really works? Because financially educated citizens are dangerous citizens for the status quo. They ask questions. They do not accept inflation as a natural phenomenon. They do not condone systematic theft disguised as fiscal policy. When I was young, I watched my father work like a convict all his life, believing his state pension would be enough. He was an honest, hardworking man who followed all the rules. And do you know what he received in the end? A retirement that barely paid the rent. He spent the last years of his life depending on his children, humiliated, broken, not out of laziness, not for lack of character, but because he trusted the system instead of building his own. I swore I would never be that man. And you need to make the same choice now. Let's talk about pure mechanics. Let's dissect how the machine really operates. Without ideology, just facts. You work. Let's say you win 1,000 currency units. Before this money even touches your hand, the government already collects a significant portion in income taxes. Then, when you go to buy anything, you pay consumption taxes. When you save, the bank pays you ridiculous interest that barely covers inflation, which is essentially an invisible tax that silently erodes your purchasing power. If you invest, you pay taxes on capital gains. If you die, in many places, your heirs pay inheritance taxes. You are a beast of burden on a farm where the farmer is never satisfied. And the ingenuity of the modern farm is to make you believe that you are not a beast of burden, but a taxpayer participating in a social contract. Contract? Did you sign anything? Have you agreed to the terms? Or were you simply born into a system where compliance is mandatory and resistance is punishable by imprisonment? But wait, it gets worse. Much worse. Inflation, my dear friend, is the tool, most brutal wealth transfer ever invented. And it is deliberate. When governments print money to finance deficits, they are literally stealing your purchasing power. Each new note that enters the system dilutes the value of the notes you already have. It's simple math. More units of the same thing means each unit is worth less. In 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created in the United States, a dollar had a certain purchasing power. Today, that same dollar is worth about 3 cents of that original value. 97% of the value was evaporated, stolen, not by street thieves, but by government money printers. And here's the part that should make you furious. As your salary is eroded by inflation, the assets of the rich, properties, shares, companies, increase in nominal value proportionately. Inflation is a tax on the poor and middle class. The rich use it as fuel. You are a hamster on a wheel, running faster and faster just to stay in the same place. And if you stop, you fall. But the wheel doesn't stop, the wheel never stops. As long as you are dependent on a salary, exchanging hours for money, you are on this wheel. And the only way out is to build your own wealth generation structure independent of the system. Lie number 1. Public retirement is safe. It is not. Social security systems operate in a pyramid scheme. Today's workers pay today's retirees. This only works when there are more workers than retirees. But birth rates are falling, populations are aging. The math doesn't add up. In 20, 30 years, when you retire, there will be fewer people paying and more people receiving. But politicians don't talk about it because the real solution, cutting benefits or brutally increasing taxes, is politically toxic. So they kick the can down the road, make promises they can't keep, and let you believe you're safe. You're not. Lie number 2. Working hard is enough. Working hard is necessary, but it's not enough. Do you know people who work hard? Of course you do. Construction workers who carry weight all day, nurses who work double shifts, app drivers who drive 16 hours straight. They work hard. They are poor. Hard work without strategic direction is just wasted energy. It's digging holes and filling them back in. What matters is not how much you work, but what you do with the fruits of that work. If you work 60 hours a week but spend every penny you earn, you are just surviving, not thriving. Wealth does not come from hard work. Wealth comes from smart work multiplied by time and compound interest. It comes from making your money work as hard as you work. It comes from ownership, from assets that generate value while you sleep. Lie number 3. You need a lot of money to start investing. This is the most convenient lie of all because it gives you a perfect excuse to do nothing. When I earn more, then I'll start saving. When I get a raise, then I'll invest. Comforting lie that keeps you right where you are. The truth? You don't need a lot of money. You need discipline. You need consistency. You need time. Even if you can save just 5% of your salary, just 5 damn percent, and invest that appropriately for 20, 30 years, you'll have a solid foundation. It won't be obscene wealth, but it will be infinitely more than most will have. The problem is not how much you earn. The problem is that you spend it all. The problem is that you can't say no to impulses. The problem is that you treat symptoms of emotional emptiness with credit card purchases. Now let's get down to business. Let's talk about how you get out of this psychological and financial prison. First, you need to accept a fundamental truth. You cannot fix a broken system from within the system. You're not going to reform Social Security. You won't convince politicians to be fiscally responsible. You will not change the inflationary nature of fiat currencies. What you can do, what you should do, is build your own parallel system of financial security. I've seen this happen over and over again. Ordinary people, no economics degrees, no inheritances, no extraordinary luck, just brutal discipline and basic understanding of economic principles. Building modest fortunes, but enough to never depend on anyone. Let me tell you about a guy I met. He worked as a mechanic, median salary, nothing special. But he had a sacred rule. 20% of everything he earned was his for the future. It didn't matter what happened. I cut it at parties, I cut it at dinner out, I cut it at everything whatever was necessary, but those 20% were untouchable. He invested this money not in fancy schemes or trendy cryptocurrencies, but in solid, boring, predictable assets. Stock indices of established companies, fixed income securities when rates were good. A small property to rent when you managed to save a down payment. Not sexy, nothing exciting, just compound math working in his favor. 20 years later, while his peers the same age were still broke, counting pennies to pay bills, this man had a portfolio that generated passive income greater than his salary. He kept working because he liked it, not because he had to. He had freedom, he had options. He owed nothing to anyone, least of all the government. And do you know what his secret was? It was not superior intelligence, it wasn't perfect timing, it was just starting and not stopping. It was the snowball rolling down the mountain. Small at first, almost insignificant, but gaining mass exponentially with each rotation. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world for those who use it, and the curse for those who don't understand. When you invest money that generates a return, and then invest that return generating more return, and then invest that return generating even more return, you create a perpetual wealth creation machine. But this requires something that most people don't have: patience and sacrifice in the short term. Building wealth independent of government is not a sprint, it's a war of attrition, a war against your own impulses, against consumer culture, against social pressure to keep up appearances, against the temptation of instant gratification. Your friends are going to buy new cars. You will drive a used one. Your colleagues go on vacation to resorts. You're going camping. Your family will question why you are so miserly, and for years, it will feel like you're missing out. It will seem like you are depriving yourself of life while others enjoy life. But then something changes. While they are still paying for things they no longer use, you have a robust emergency fund. While they panic because the company is making cuts, you have 6 months of expenses saved up. While they have to beg for loans or rely on government programs in the first crisis, you have autonomy. And most importantly, while they will work until they are 70 because they have no choice, you will have options. You will decide if you want to work, when you want to work, and who you want to work for. This is real freedom, not abstract philosophical freedom. Practical, tangible, banking freedom. But you need to understand the battlefield. You are fighting a system designed to get the most out of you. Then you need a precise military strategy. First line of defense. Eliminate high interest debt, credit cards, payday loans, anything with interest above 10% per year. These are suction pumps that drain your wealth faster than you can build it. Pay it back first, aggressively, violently. It's the only debt you can invest with a guaranteed return of 10, 20, 30% per year. Second line, build an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses in something liquid and safe. This is not investment. This is safe. It is your protection against having to sell investments at the worst time or borrow when a crisis arises. Third line, invest automatically. Set up an automatic transfer every month as soon as you receive your salary. Pay yourself first. Treat your monthly investment like a non-negotiable bill, as important as rent or food. Fourth line, diversify, but not too much. You don't need 30 different investments. You need 3 to 5 well-chosen categories. Shares of large companies via index funds, conservative government or corporate bonds, maybe a property when you have enough capital, possibly some exposure to precious metals as insurance against currency collapse. Fifth line, increase your income. Work hard, yes, but also work on increasing your market value. Learn skills that pay more, change jobs when necessary. Corporate loyalty is financial death. Set up a side business. Sell your free time for money if necessary. And during all of this, completely ignore the noise. Ignore gurus who promise to get rich quick. Ignore schemes that seem too good to be true. Ignore political movements that promise to solve your problems. Keep your head down, stick to the plan, adjust when necessary based on data and not emotions. I saw people lose fortunes because they heard noise. One guy I met had an excellent portfolio, growing consistently. Then an election came. He was terrified by the news. He sold everything at the bottom of the bank. Market and was left out when everything recovered. Lost years of gains due to irrational panic. The market will fall. Politicians will do stupid things. Crises will happen. And if you sell in a panic, you turn a temporary loss into a permanent loss. Wealth is built by those who buy when everyone is selling in desperation and sell when everyone is buying in euphoria. But that requires something rarer than money. Courage. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Taxes. You will pay taxes. It's inevitable. But there's a huge difference between paying your fair share and being a cash cow. Tax laws are written by and for rich people. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is an observable fact. The rich don't pay taxes at the same rate as the middle class because they understand how the game works. They use legal structures, investments that have favorable tax treatment, and strategic timing. You should do the same. I'm not talking about tax evasion. That's illegal and stupid. I'm talking about tax avoidance, using every legal tool available to minimize your tax burden. Invest in tax-advantaged accounts when possible. Structure your investments to minimize capital gains taxes. Hold long-term investments when tax treatment is better. Document everything. Work with a competent accountant when your assets warrant it. You have a moral obligation to pay the taxes you legally owe. You have no moral obligation to pay a penny more than that. Anyone who says otherwise is either economically illiterate or trying to take your money. And here's a brutal truth that no one will tell you. The government is terrible at allocating resources. For every dollar you give in taxes, a microscopic fraction actually helps those in need. The rest is wasted on bureaucracy, poorly managed projects, corruption, and programs that serve political interests rather than real needs. Your money does more good in your hands, invested in your safety and the safety of your family, than in the hands of bureaucrats who do not suffer consequences for incompetence. This is not selfishness, it's realism. We have reached the end, and now you have a choice to make. You can close this text, go back to your life, and continue doing exactly what you were doing. You can continue to believe that someone will come and save you. You can continue spending every penny you earn. You can continue to blame the system, politicians, the rich, the economy, luck, or any other external entity for your financial situation. That's the easy choice. It's the choice that 95% of people make. And it is the choice that leads to a miserable old age, dependent, without dignity and without options. Or you can make the other choice. You can wake up tomorrow and start. Don't start when you have more money. Don't start when things get better. Start tomorrow. Open an investment account. Set up an automatic transfer of 5, 10, 20% of your salary. Start learning about personal finance, investments, basic economics. You may decide that your financial security is your responsibility and no one else's. You may decide that you will build your own safety net rather than rely on promises from politicians. You may decide that you will sacrifice present gratification for future security. This choice is difficult. It will require discipline that you may not know you have. It will require sacrifices that will hurt. It will put you in conflict with an entire culture that glorifies consumption and debt. Your friends won't understand. Your family may criticize. You will spend years feeling behind others. But in 20 years, when you have financial freedom and your colleagues are desperately wondering if they'll ever be able to retire, you'll know you made the right choice. I can't make that choice for you. No text, video, book, or guru can make that choice for you. You, and only you, decide whether you will remain a beast of burden in the system or whether you will build your own freedom. And you know what's most frustrating? That I know that most of the people who made it this far are going to do absolutely nothing with this information. They will agree intellectually. You will feel a moment of motivation. And then they will return to the same patterns of behavior that keep them trapped. Why? Because real change hurts. Because it's easier to complain than to act. Because taking full responsibility for your financial life is scary. It is much more comfortable to believe that you are a victim of external circumstances than to accept that you're the author of your own financial story. But here's what I've learned from watching people for decades. Regret is infinitely more painful than discipline. The pain of depriving yourself of small pleasures today is microscopic, with stop the pain of reaching 60 and realizing that you wasted all your chances. When I was in my early 20s, I worked with an older man. He told me something I've never forgotten. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. That sounded cliche at the time, but years later, when I saw this truth manifest itself repeatedly in real life, I understood its depth. You can't go back and start 10 years ago, but you can start now. And 10 years from now, you'll look back and thank the present version of yourself for having the courage to start. Or you will look back bitterly, wondering why you didn't act when you still had time. Let's do one final exercise. Pure mathematics without emotion. Person A earns $2,000 a month. Spend it all. It continued like this for 30 years. In the end, you have zero plus some debt, plus total dependence on a government pension that pays $1,000 a month, if it pays. Person B earns the same $2,000 a month. Save $200 religiously. Invest in something that returns 8% per year on average. Conservative, not aggressive. In 30 years, with compound interest, this person will have approximately $300,000 in assets. The investment generates $24,000 per year in passive income. $2,000 a month. The equivalent of the full salary, same initial income, different decisions, astronomically different results. The difference was not luck. It wasn't an inheritance. It wasn't perfect timing. It was 10% discipline for 30 years. 10%. This is what separates freedom from dependence. This is what separates dignity from humiliation in old age. And you're going to tell me you can't save 10%? Are you going to tell me you can't cut out Netflix, dining out once a week, that new car you don't need, those designer clothes you buy to impress people who don't care about you? Don't insult me. You can. You just don't want to. And that is the crucial difference. Freedom is not doing what you want when you want. This is the childish definition of freedom. Real freedom is having options. It's being able to say no. It means not being a hostage to an employer, a bank, a government. When you have 6 months of expenses saved up, you can say no to a toxic job. When you have investments generating income, you can choose to work less. When you don't owe anyone anything, you don't need to swallow humiliation for fear of losing your source of income. This is real freedom. And ironically, to obtain this freedom, you must first submit to discipline. You need to become a slave to your financial plan to eventually free yourself from all other slavery. That's the bargain. Voluntary short-term imprisonment in exchange for long-term freedom. And most people do the opposite. They seek short-term freedom, spending what they want when they want, in exchange for long-term imprisonment, debt, addiction, lack of options. Milton Friedman spent his entire life trying to make people understand that economic freedom and personal freedom are inseparable. You cannot be free politically if you are a slave economically. A man who depends on the government for his survival cannot criticize the government without fear. He is not free. He is a well-treated servant, perhaps, but still a servant. The only way to be truly free is to not depend on anyone. And the only way to not depend on anyone is to build your own solid economic base. I'll close with the most brutal truth of all. You already know all of this. It is not missing information. It's action. It's courage. It's a willingness to do the difficult thing. You know you should save. You know you should invest. You know you should learn about finance. You know you can't depend on the government. You know all this. But you don't act. Why? Because it's easier to live in fantasy. It's easier to believe that someone will solve your problem. It's easier to spend today and not think about tomorrow. It's easier to blame the system than to change your behavior. But ease is the path to mediocrity. Ease is the path to dependence. Ease is the path to a miserable old age, where you have no choices and survive on government crumbs while praying you don't get sick because you don't even have money for medicine. Do you want this life? Because that's where you're going if you don't change direction now. Don't wait for an economic collapse to wake up. Don't wait until you lose your job to realize you need reserves. Don't wait until you're 50 to start thinking about retirement. Don't expect politicians to magically become competent and honorable. Get started today, not tomorrow, not Monday. Today. Open an investment account today. Set up an automatic transfer today. Cut a superfluous expense today. Read a book about finance today. One step, just one. But today. Dust. Because every day that passes is one less day of compound interest working in your favor. It's one more day you waste believing in external saviors that won't come. You're not special. You are no exception. The same economic laws that governed past generations will govern your life. And these laws are merciless to the unprepared. The government will not save you. Your parents won't save you. Luck won't save you. The only person who can save you is yourself. And you have to start now. That's my final message. Take responsibility. Stop waiting. Stop complaining. Stop playing the victim. Build your own security. Organize your money as if your life depended on it, because it does. And when you succeed, when 20 years from now you have freedom while your peers are in prison, don't let anyone tell you that you were lucky. You were unlucky. You made difficult choices when it was easy to make comfortable choices. You planted it when others were celebrating. You reaped because you sowed. The choice has always been yours. It always will be. And time is passing. What are you going to do?